Hey Cornerstone, my name is Scott, and today's Cornerstone connection comes from 1 Samuel chapter 1. If you read 1 Samuel chapter 1 today, you'll notice that Hannah was a broken woman. She was experiencing incredible grief because she was a woman who desperately wanted to have a child but could not. And what we see is that in the midst of her pain, in all the anguish and distress that she had experienced, she ran to the Lord in prayer. And that made all the difference. But the reality is the people around her were less than helpful. First of all, there was this other wife to Hannah's husband named Peninnah. And she mocked Hannah relentlessly. We read in verse 7 that this mockery went by year after year. This woman pointed out the fact that Hannah could not have kids, and it was an incredibly painful experience for Hannah to endure. And then there was Hannah's husband, Elkanah. I don't know if this man was just insensitive or flat out stupid, but he did not respond to his wife's pain very well. We read in verse 8 that Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Hannah, why do you weep? And why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad?" And does he not know the reason for his wife's distress? Certainly he does. But then he says this audacious thing at the end of that verse. He says, "Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" What an insensitive thing to say to a woman who is in such pain. But Hannah responded to her pain in prayer. Look with me at verse 10. It says she was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And then she continues, verse 12. As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli the priest observed her mouth, and Hannah was speaking in her heart, and only her lips moved, and her voice was not heard. She couldn't even put words to her prayer because the pain was so intense. Now Eli thought that she was drunk, but she responds here in verse 15, "No, my Lord, I'm a woman troubled in spirit. I'm not drunk, I haven't had wine, I haven't had strong drink, but I've been pouring out my soul before the Lord." What a good example to us. Whatever we are going through, we are called to take that and pour out our soul before the Lord. And we notice that that made all the difference here. Because it says in verse 16, she says, "Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation. I've been pouring out my soul," she's saying. And then Eli answered, "Go in peace. Go in peace. And the God of Israel grant your petition that you have made to him." And she said, "Let your servant find favor in your eyes." Now notice this. Then the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Do you see what just happened? Even before God answered her prayer, because she poured out her soul before the Lord, she could eat again. The darkness lifted, the sadness left, and she experienced God's peace. You know, that's something that you and I can experience as well, no matter what we're going through. Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition and with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." So church, whatever it is that weighs heavy on your heart today, take it to the Lord in prayer and receive that promise of his peace that surpasses all understanding.